Here's your smart fact of the day. According to this report from cron.com, slightly dubious cron.com, the impact of trust, the positive impact of trust in a team, the results are really significant. Employees feel more than 100% more energetic at work, 76% were more engaged with their job, experienced 74% less stress, and were taking 13% fewer days off from illness. The question is, should I trust cron.com and their statistics? Well, welcome to Smarter With Sid, and in this episode, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dissect trust a little bit and figure out how to actually look at trust in the workplace and see what we can do about building trust ourselves. Let's go. Now, just to set the context over here, I read an article by Professor Scott Galloway recently. It was about how crypto is basically crashing. Crypto has been crashing in the past few days or maybe weeks, and nobody knows what is going on. And Scott Galloway actually thinks that the central proposition around crypto as being something which is trustless. So you don't need to actually trust in an institution to make things work, trust in a person to make things work. The system itself works, so it's a trustless system. And Scott Galloway thinks, and I'm tending to agree with him, that perhaps is a sort of a questionable value proposition, because a trustless system is not something that human beings are particularly used to. Let me explain this a little further. What I mean is that if I look at the success of humanity, and if I look at the success of us, it is connected deeply to us working as a tribe. Right from the savannah to where we are right now in the workplace situation. We are always working as tribes, as groups, as people who are banding together, and trust becomes an incredibly important part of the equation over here. So the reason why we trust banks or we don't trust banks is based upon the kind of people that are leading those institutions. But being trustworthy or untrustworthy and being trustless are two different things. See, whenever you're saying the system will work, you don't need to try and say that this, put trust into the system. That actually goes against our success mantra. Our success mantra is we believe that a team can work really well, and that's because there's trust involved in the people around them. Trust brings speed. It brings speed to whatever enterprise that we're doing. Trust brings quality. Trust brings a lot of positive energy and the rest of it. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying, and probably what Professor Scott Galloway is also saying, is trust is something which is intrinsic to the nature of humanity. And I don't think that a trustless system is going to work, because we are always hardwired to look for people that we can trust and institutions that we can trust. And it's deeply ingrained in our DNA, right? So therefore, trust is important. Now, trust can be of two types. They say that, that old trope of trust in God but lock your car. Now, that's a pretty weird statement if you consider it deeply, because it says trust in God, which means trust the rest of humanity when you do things, but do lock your car, be practical, because there's always some thief around who might just steal your car. Now, this is a paradox. This is, a double speak, unless and until you think about it a little deeper. What I guess the statement is trying to say is trust in the value system of humanity in general, but be practical enough to double check and to make sure that there are no rotten apples to kind of spoil whatever you're trying to do. If I have to do its modern day work-life equivalent, the statement will become trust in your teammate, but recheck his or her document. Now, when I put it in such crude terms, this suddenly becomes extremely stark, because if you are going to check your teammate's document when you are communicating that you're trusting them verbally or face-to-face or through every other interaction, that might cheese them off. And it's quite possible that if you do find some mistakes, then the trust that you have in your teammate might go down, or you might end up showing that document to your teammate, which might end up creating a bigger and bigger mess. So what do? Do you trust or you don't trust? What should be your default position? It is an extremely important factor for you to actually start your work life, whether you're an individual joining a team, or whether you're a team leader, or whether you're the super boss. Trust, because trust brings speed. I think the starting point, probably in my personal perspective, would be trust. Now, this is where things get a little dicey, and I'm sure all of us know this very clearly when we connect it back to our families. So when we are in a family type situation, I think every family member knows that you'll get the shirt off their back if there is a dicey situation. But do you trust somebody to do the dishes, or do you trust somebody to lock the doors, or do you trust somebody else to clean their rooms? I think that is where trust is a bit of a slippery thing. Trust then becomes functional rather than of values. And so that's why I think it becomes extremely important for us to learn this. This is the first principle of trust that I probably want to communicate in this episode. Functional trust is the trusting of somebody's skill, is the trusting of somebody's behaviors, is the trusting of somebody's abilities. And so you're trusting somebody at a functional level. I trust dad to, do this. I trust mom to do this, which is at a family setting. Just convert it into a workplace scenario. I trust XYZ to do a document really well. I trust, ABC to do a presentation really well, etc., etc. So you have functional trust. But can you expand that functional trust into an all kind of trust, all encompassing kind of trust? I trust this guy to, do the document well, so he will go and meet the client and do a great job of it. This is where things fall apart, don't they? So I think the core aspect is to trust people's value systems, but not to trust functions that they're not very good at. And I think communication, and sometimes over communication of these two different types of trust, are extremely important, maybe in an orientation program when people just join in, or maybe in team meetings, or maybe at the start of a project, or anything of that sort. In fact, when you are part of a team, that means that you are being trusted at a values level, but not at a functional level, especially if you're not known to be doing that function specifically well. What do you think? I think this is worth chewing on, these different types of trust, and making them very open and very clear with each other would save a lot of heartbreak, and in fact would increase the speed at which you do things. To mistrust openly is another sign of trust, isn't it? So if the values wala trust is kind of sorted out, then the function wala trust is not specifically quite a problem. I think to be able to mistrust openly and saying, dad can never do the dishes, can he? Is some different level of super trust that we should all aim for. Because I don't think we can ever be trustless, and trustless systems will work. I think we are hardwired to be looking out for beacons of trust. On that happy note, I would love to find out whether you like this episode of mine on Smarter with Sid. Making an episode on trust is incredibly difficult within 10 minutes, but I'm glad you stuck around with me, trusted me, and I'm hoping that I will continue to be trustworthy, not only at a value system level, but also at a functional level. And hey, if you like me, do like and subscribe to this podcast. And if you like and subscribe to this podcast, why not follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram, wherein I'm the traveling professor. And if you like podcasts like these, do check out what IVM's got in store for you. It's really good stuff. On that happy note then, ciao.